Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing a discussion over Sorcerer Endbringer, the newest expansion to Sorcerer that took 15 years to come out. So Endbringer, so real quick, Sorcerer is a weird game because it kind of takes a lot of elements from other games, in my opinion, mixes them together really well, like nothing feels disjointed necessarily, but and then adds this insanely fantastic art on top of it. Because for me, it's like it has a little bit of Smash Up, it has a little bit of mainly Smash Up, just for gothic horror fans. But then they add in this dice element for its combat resolution. So you have this really intricate card play mixed with action selection, because I like the fact that you can always choose to draw. You can always choose to gain energy. But then it goes down to roll or resolve. So as time has gone on since Sorcerer came out, 5 years ago?
2019.
Yeah, so 5 years ago, I've kind of cooled on it, and since it came out, since Endbringer was announced, it's been on our most anticipated of the years every single time. I think last year was the time I didn't put it on because I was like, It's been so long. Well, it's finally here, and Endbringer makes it what was pretty much a 1v1 game into now a cooperative game. Where you fight Endbringers, these Promethean gods that there's 4 of them in the game. Hypnos, Ereshkigal, Zernibok, and then Urkel. Or Erlich, whatever his name is. So there's 4 bosses to go after, and it's cooperative. So Brad, what did you think of Sorcerer Endbringer?
Well, I've been anticipating this a lot because I love Sorcerer. I play tested Sorcerer for Wise Wizard at Origins back then when it was coming on release year.
Mm-hmm.
But it always never got played for me because I play solo a lot, as you guys know. So it kind of just sit there. That's why I go long stints without playing it. Mm-hmm. And then when they came out, decided they were going to do this Kickstarter, I was like, oh, hell yeah, it's going to be able to be played solo, all that stuff. And it's more. I mean, it's more stuff. It gives you more stuff to mess with when you do play regular Sorcerer, more sorcerers and lineages and stuff like that.
Yeah, domains, all that domain expansion.
And at the beginning, when we were first learning this, it seemed kind of odd. But as the games kept going and stuff, like this is cool up here, all the way things get resolved, and I actually really enjoy the dice part of Endbringer better than the competitive version.
Yes,
because the competitive gets crazy because you're like, re-roll that. Nope, re-roll that dice. Nope, re-roll that. No, I'm gonna re-roll that dice. You're spinning omens like crazy.
Yeah.
And then this, being cooperative, you don't have to worry about that. They're going to do their damage.
Yeah.
You figure out where it goes, and then they've come up with a good way of how to disperse damage on their side, making it like a funny fake player.
Yeah.
But it works.
I agree, actually, and I'm kind of upset that, because Endbringer I was hoping it would do something with the dice, and it almost feels like that they did. Yeah, I agree with you. The dice system, where it's roll or resolve, is way better. I mean, yeah, you still use omens and stuff to spend, but yeah, when it comes to them, you're not rolling for them.
It's only one way.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that irritated me with Sorcerer, as much as I still like the game, is like when you and I would play, a battle phase would take forever.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, canceling this hit and canceling that hit. And
or
doing
if
that.
you don't
It's
have any
like-
omens, let's say both sides don't have any omens, it's like, oh, lucky me, I rolled
Right,
better than
right.
you. It's like, okay, cool.
So this works a lot better.
Yeah, and it kind of upsets me that it's like, I wish that it was applied, like they added a new rule where it's like omens are now spent to mitigate attack. Because it's like they're just like, we're going to do 3 damage. It's their turn to attack, it's 3 damage. Assign it to your minions as you see fit, or assign it to your overall shared life pool. Kind of like what you would normally do anyway, you get to divide how the damage goes. It's like, man, I wish that was just to make it even more streamlined. Don't include the dice at all. Be like, hey, if you're playing Endbringer, don't do the dice. Or apply this rule in the base game. You know? And maybe omens are spent in some other way. I don't know. But I agree with you. I think that the combat resolution in Endbringer is way better. And I also agree with you that at the beginning of like our games, I was kind of like, this feels just kind of like other better games.
Right.
This feels like Marvel Champions. This feels like Aeon's End. But then something happened, kind of like in your very first game of Aeon's End, where it's like, huh. We're gonna lose next round if we don't win this round. That's really cool. And it feels very balanced, even though it doesn't, I don't know, it's kind of odd because it's like we have such a large health pool between the two of us where it's like 60 health versus 6 monoliths with 9 damage each. That it was kind of like, oh man, these monoliths are kind of easy to destroy. But then we look at our health and it's like, well, we're at 30 health. And we've destroyed 3 monoliths, so I guess we're both at half.
Well, and this guy in particular, Ehrlich, is the easiest, least complex. So I'm sure the other ones get nasty. And
Right.
they're also playing normal mode, not veteran. I'm wondering if veteran
Vet-
we start out with lower.
Nothing changes on health.
Oh, okay.
The thing that changes with veteran mode is they have specific monoliths
Oh, okay.
tied to them, so I can actually pull those
Gotcha.
out. And what I was originally upset about at first with how long this game took to come out, I was like, man, only 4, you know? Only 4 bosses, which I guess is like, if we weren't in like a Kickstarter heyday, you know, where you get 1 million shit that no one ever sees, 4 would be a lot. But then it's like, it's 4 domains, it's 4 archetypes, and it's 4 scenarios, so mix and match. On top of the you know, domains and characters and lineages and stuff that you would get. So there's monoliths for like the scenarios that get shuffled together. Like, for example, we have Ruthless Force, and they're all different too, which is nice. So like Ruthless Force for one of the leading the invasions is when revealed, exhaust and weaken all allied minions.
Okay.
If you destroy that one. So because you don't know what the monoliths do. Now some of them are like, there's 9, 3 of them are good, 3 are bad, and 3 are neutral. So, and you can adjust your difficulty that way, depending on if you, so like the Deathbringer, one of them is when revealed, spawn an exhausted minion into play, their when played effects do not trigger. And then you have Ehrlich. When revealed, take global damage equal to the number of rage counters.
Right.
And I think that's cool. I think just the base game, what came in Endbringer is enough. Like, it's, like I said, it's 4, 4, and 4. Like, so mix and match any of those combos on top of the monoliths they are shuffling in if you want to play on a higher difficulty. On top of how you want to take, like I played as Seth, who had these sin cards that he could play for free essentially, and like basically load the sin bullets into his gun, and then like as an action I can just, you know, do collateral damage across a bunch of people. And I don't know what the hell you were doing.
Well, I think the synergy didn't quite hit as much because I have a bunch of fungus minions that are really cheap to put out, and they have when destroyed abilities. So I think they want you to flood an area with those and then kill
them all.
because it's like when this one dies, you get an omen for every
Yeah.
other fungus there, or you get get +2 attack. Or
Mhm.
what ended up being the best for me, I think, was the rich my lineage.
Yeah.
The ritualist, because it was all voodoo stuff, and having the voodoo type stuff was really handy with having the being able to have the temple,
all the mounts,
and right,
all being mounted.
But like that's cool because I had 4 different, and I start the game with the guy that can spin these cards, the temple cards as omens.
Yeah.
But like I have this one, the little girl is spinning any number of temple cards to heal that much total damage from any number of your minions.
Cool.
So this is heals your minions. This one lets you pull a non-legend minion from your graveyard and pay its cost in temple cards. And then this one guy was a little more convoluted, the old black man. You can play a sorcery from the graveyard paying its cost with temple cards and blah blah blah. So it gives you options to
extremely versatile for almost any type of build.
Right.
Like it's like, oh, this one does a lot of sorcery, so I'm just gonna constantly be bumping those in. Yeah, funny enough, my lineage I never did. It required like light counters, which had these like divine cards that were super powerful, like AoE, like battlefield affecting things. Hey, like every time they attack, all minions or all allies here get +2 attack, and then when they attack, they heal. It's like, oh man, that was 3 light counters. That's super cool.
Yeah, I never used my opera house.
Yeah,
So,
I used my blood curse ship a couple times. Oh, I forgot. I could draw 2 cards. But the way that the sorcerer thing works, now the rulebook is horrendous. They front load you with a bunch of information, keywords, and all that shit before even getting to setup. I hate that. And there's no player aids, and the wording is weird, but still, once you trudge through the rulebook, which the original wasn't great either, it is very straightforward on what they do. Hey, there's a spawn phase that comes from the archetype deck. Whenever you go, the nemesis goes. You just draw his card. So I wouldn't say that it's like intricate or necessarily exciting, because it kind of feels like Aeon's End, and I feel like Aeon's End has a little bit more nuance to the Nameless, like more things going on with them because they have minions, they also have attacks, they have powers. Here it is literally just kind of multi-use cards, because it's like, hey, they might have a ongoing condition or they have an action, but I think it's okay because he goes a lot more. Like it's you, him, me, him.
Right.
And so if it was an ordeal every time you had to draw a card for him, it'd be like, ugh.
Right.
So I guess simple is better in this case.
Yeah, and we made this comment, or you made the comment when we were playing this, like, I still think the sweet spot for this is solo.
100%. 1,000,000%.
Right. So, I mean, it was fine, 2-player.
Yes.
It's not bad, but...
Yeah, we did, at least it wasn't like, man, like Imperium, where you're sitting there and it's like, man, I don't give a shit what you're doing.
Right,
I did
right.
care. I'm dying. I did care what you were doing, well, kind of. I cared that you were here. But there wasn't ever really, because you can't play cards together. You can't do any of this. I can't play sorceries and stuff. It barely affects you with the fate token. Yeah,
and there was what I could have done, because was it this one? No, it was the ritualist.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there are certain like the House of Petro. Like if you had the House of Petro as a lineage, there's different things. There's that one and another one.
Cool.
That if you had that, he actually can use the effects of some of your cards and stuff too. So there is a little bit depending on the mix, but it's not.
I mean, and when it
constant.
says allied minions, it's kind of like any allied minion and stuff like that. So you can heal and do all that stuff, but still, in our experience, it was kind of like we just divide and conquer. Like I'll put my minions in here, you put your minions there, and we'll just both deal with the battle domains that are being affected. But yeah, I agree. I still think solo, the only thing that really changes is you have 30 health instead of 60 because it's 30 health per player.
Which makes sense because he'll only flip one card then.
Exactly.
And it's 6 rounds.
Less minions because it's just one big spawn per battlefield. And yeah, one card, and it'd be quicker. It's like, I'm gonna do an action, draw a card, see what he does. So while not horrible at 2, and I am never ever playing this with 3, max of 3. That's so weird. I think it's max of 3 just because they didn't want to do another dial. Because they can only go up to 90. So they're like, oh man, it's a 3-player game. But that would just be, because it would just weirdly get cluttered. Like if you had 3 players of minions and attachments and not enough tokens to put on all the minions getting spawned.
Well, and it's just like right here, we all came in here.
Yeah.
I mean, and I kind of had you put yours here so we could keep it straight for who was doing actions. I mean, we knew what we put out, but when you see if all of them were cluttered.
Yeah, and not including like my cards barely had any attachments, so it's like, but you did. But if we both or all 3 players had attachments that go on minions, it's like, okay, so where are they going? Yeah, so I would agree. I think this was definitely made with solo in mind. But again, if you want to play with 2 or 3, by all means, it's not horrendous. Just understand that it's going to be messy. It's not like a streamlined, clean looking game.
Yeah.
But the way the minions work, I also thought was really cool because if they're in a place with the Endbringer, they get tactics, and all of that is why I was talking about the multi-use. Is you just draw a card from the top of the Nemesis deck, color match it to the archetype card, and give it an ability.
Then there's a bunch of different types of those cards too, right?
Yeah, there's 4.
Yeah.
So the 4 archetypes. You have the Plague Bringer, and the art is just insane. It kind of looks like did you ever play Dragon Age Inquisition?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
So you have the Plague Bringer, the Hellraiser, and the Demiurge, and then the 4 scenarios you have is leading an invasion, is preparing a dark ritual, is awakening the scions, and is arming the horde. And all those can be, and they're different. Some of them are you have 3 rounds, you have 6 rounds, you have 4 rounds, you have 5 rounds. So the scenarios are different. But it's also really cool because that kind of makes you use your omens a little bit more instead of being like, oh, do I want to use it to re-roll, or do I want to spend omens to cycle through the tactics?
Right.
It's like, oh shit, I got the one that gives it an extra attack and it spawns. Yeah, I'll spend one of my omens, but I only have 2 and it has an ongoing ability that I want to get rid of, because you can get rid of their ongoing abilities. So they made the omens more useful instead of just for re-rolling dice.
Right.
Do you have any negatives on the game? Because I have one major one. It actually really has nothing to do with the game play.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any super negatives to me. Like, I mean, it kind of came down to the end. And I don't know, this is a lot of games like this where we just decided to go glass cannon, and we just all went into one zone to just it was all or nothing, and like, we didn't give a crap about that.
Right. Because you can math it out. It was kind of like, nothing in the rules that we could find was, since the minions don't roll dice, there's not unopposed battlefield, so it doesn't, I couldn't find anything that said, oh, if it's unopposed, minions do double damage, or something. But I mean, even if that was the case, and all you do is just dump a minion there, and it's like, oh, it's not unopposed anymore, so it doesn't matter. So you can math out, like, it's like, oh, well, if we don't win over there, then we lose.
But I guess the main one would be some sort of maybe like a player aid kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that would really be about it.
Nope, that is a good one, I agree, because I'm kind of in the mindset of Z. This is absolutely useless.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use your back page for a rule book as art, and especially not even good art, like whatever the hell that is. That should have been a player aid. That's just, it's so stupid that is there. No, my biggest complaint is the fact that it's in a separate box.
Oh, yeah.
I hate
I
that.
agree with that too.
It's organized well, and it fits all of my sleeved cards. Now, you were saying you were having issues fitting everything sleeved with like the extra stuff, like the extra sorcerers and all that.
Yeah.
But so you have other dividers for each individual character?
Yes.
Oh, that might be why. I don't have those.
It's every character, every archetype, every
Gotcha.
every lineage, it's everything.
I wonder if it's on their store.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Okay, because I would like
It was
this.
just an add-on I added for
Gotcha. I might check their store.
Yeah.
But that's really it. So if you like Sorcerer, well, I guess if you like Sorcerer as a purely 1v1 game and you have no interest in playing cooperatively, then don't get Endbringer. Because the extra sorcerers and stuff that we're talking about aren't coming from Endbringer. Those were extra from, they were just add-ons. As far as I'm aware. Yeah, because they were all individual pack, they didn't come in the box.
Yeah.
Endbringer is just the 4 bosses and the archetypes and all that. But I'm impressed. I think they managed to actually take a 1v1 mix mash area battle game and turn it into a pretty solid.
I just can't imagine how much tweaking and testing it would be, because they had to get this system to work with all the other lineage domains and
And there's a lot.
and sorcerers too. And it's like, I mean, I can see why it took so long, because after the Kickstarter happened, they sent out a message, a few months after, be like, okay, guys, we're gonna actually sit back and retool, start from the ground up, with everything. And this is actually the game that started their focus on, which I know Hero Realms was shortly after this one too. But they started saying they're not going to put out Kickstarter projects until the project is ready to go to printer.
Yeah.
So, because this was taking so long, they didn't want to have to go back and redevelop everything.
Yeah. And
Which
it's
is
also
smart.
their rebranding. Yeah, you can actually see it, White Wizard Games
Yeah.
and then Wise Wizard on the expansion.
Yeah.
Which cover art do you like better?
Oh gosh, I like them both. I mean, I love.
I know you do really like this.
I love the first person view of it.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you're probably gonna like that one.
I do kind of like that one better because of the Cthulhu monster.
Yeah.
It gives me Hero Realms and or Talisman cover art.
I can't really pick between the two of them. I think they're both fine.
I like the color coding of this
Yeah.
one more.
I like the first person cool. Like you see your hands.
Yeah, like
all
a
that stuff.
Skyrim kind of view.
So
with magic.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I mean, art's A-list.
It's so good.
It's top tier.
Like, because it's like it doesn't come off, at least in my opinion, is like cringy or anything. It's like they're not being obscene about it. There's not like severed penises everywhere,
No.
which is kind of a shame. But use your imagination.
They just turned what do we call them?
Funnel cake.
Funnel cake. They just turned funnel cake around so his back's facing us.
It doesn't make any sense.
Do you like what you see?
Ooh, I see you're a sinner. That's so funny. But yeah, so I think this is really cool. This is a very good optional way to play if you want to play 1v1 or cooperative. Then go for it. I really still think it's best designed solo. Just for cleanliness.
Yeah.
That'd be my only kind of complaint, is that it feels like this should have just been a solo game, and then they're like, well, you can play with 2. It's like, yeah, you can. So at least it works, but...
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what are you going to give Endbringer?
Alright, so as a cooperative experience, I'm going to give it a 7.
A 7?
With the chance of the solo being a possible 8.
Yeah.
After I play a
We
solo.
actually haven't played it solo yet.
Right, but I could see solo being faster, just more snappy.
Yeah, and you're
stuff
still
like that.
making the exact same tactile decisions.
So 7 cooperatively with 2 or more. Well, 2. If you go more than that, I would go below. And then with 8, a possibility of an 8 solo.
Yeah.
I could see the possibility.
Yeah,
And I can't remember what I rated the original when we.
I think it was probably a 9.
Yeah,
9 or a
it's
10.
always been a
we
really high
were
one.
really high on it. I think I'm now Sorcerer. I bumped down to an 8.
I'd say I'd probably keep it at 8. Yeah, I'd say it's an 8 too.
And yeah, I was originally thinking an 8 for Endbringer, but I think I would probably actually agree with you. I think if this had more tactile decisions, like, and it does feel like, okay, here's something that they took from Marvel Champions. Now, obviously, this was being designed and stuff ahead of time, but it took so long that it's like for example, something that's really cool is if you roll a crit, the way the battle dynamic works is very strange at first, because it's like, hey, unless you roll a crit, which you can assign to a minion or a monolith, and you're trying to destroy the monolith, that's how you win. If you roll a crit, if you don't roll a crit, then the damage is assigned to minions that can't be killed, then monoliths, then minions that can be killed, and then that's pretty much it. And at first, in the cooperative thing, you're like, why can't I assign the damage as I see fit?
Right.
That makes no sense. And then you start thinking, that's exactly what a player would do. A player would disperse out the damage to...
That's what we were doing.
Yeah, you disperse, and that's what you always do. You disperse out the damage in the battlefield, like 2 minions, you're like, oh, you're dealing 5, I'm gonna put 1 here, 2 here, and then 3 on this. Like, so it makes sense, because the enemy, while their only presence, the boss doesn't really do anything except an effect off of a card.
And that's
So
where the tactics happen for the minions too.
Exactly. So the fact that it wants to keep minions alive, because the minions are the ones that are gonna be doing damage back to you, the bosses like just do kind of overall global effects. I mean, they do damage and stuff, but kind of where they're at specifically and so on. But it works. It's weird because you feel like cooperatively you should be able to do damage as you see fit, but it's cool because when you assign a crit to a monolith instead of a minion, you get to draw the top card of the Nemesis deck and apply a crit effect, which again is kind of like, well, the tactics effects is kind of like Marvel Champions. So it works really well, and I do like it, but I kind of agree with you. I think a 7 for Endbringer puts it at good, and it is good, with 8 being, really good, or even great solo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am pleased overall with, at least it's nice that we waited 5 years and it's not like, this sucks! What the fuck did you do? Well, I wish that it is interesting that it took so long to tweak, because they kind of reversed it. It feels like they put a lot of extra effort on themselves tweaking the new stuff with stuff that already existed, versus being like, okay, we designed Endbringer, here's the update pack, replace all these cards in your base game, because then it's like, well, then you made it for your co-op game and now it doesn't work competitively.
I'm wondering if it had to do with the stretch goals that got unlocked. That hadn't been
Oh,
made yet. I wonder if
maybe.
because then the stretch goals probably really threw stuff off.
They probably did, yeah.
That's what usually happens with Kickstarter campaigns.
Yeah.
Is it's always the Kickstarter stretch goals. They're either not play tested well enough and people complain, or these guys probably really went to town.
Right.
And replay testing.
And they do mention in the rulebook, I'm trying to find it. There it is. Endbringer counts as a player. For example, you may pick the Endbringers. The examples from the ever-growing list of expansion packs are covered in the Sorcerer FAQ. So, because they mention when you're setting up, 10 pages into the rulebook, I was joking. It is on page 10 when setup starts. It mentions when you choose your player setup. It says, note, Oberon's Kingdom, the Animist, and the Forgotten Temple decks are not recommended for players new to Endbringer. Because there's going to be weird things where it's like, okay, so how does this kind of interact with them? And it does a pretty good job of explaining, forcing them to, if you make them discard a card, you take the top card of the Endbringer deck and discard it. But some effects might say, if it's a minion, draw a card.
Right.
And that's where the color comes in. Instead of tactics, it's like, blue is sorcery, red and white are minions. So they did a pretty good job of trying to think of generalized things. I'm sure there are massive, outliers with the different combinations of okay, now how does this work? But it's not bad. It is not bad, so that is always reassuring whenever it comes out. Now, for the future, I don't know. With 4 bosses, 4 archetypes, and 4 scenarios, I could see them coming out with more.
I honestly think what they need to do at this point is be done with boxes.
Big box! Yeah, big box.
Either come out with a big box, or... Because they do that with their other games.
They do.
Hero Realms, Star Realms, they come out with big boxes. So
Yeah.
if their plan is to come out with more packs
Mm-hmm.
for more sorcerers and they could come out with packs for bad guys even.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like
true.
and
Yeah,
you know,
just
stuff
say-
like that, and just buy what you want.
Yeah.
Here's your big box with all the new stuff.
You could do kind of like, a box where it comes with a new Endbringer archetype and scenario, and then just the cards for those.
Yeah.
Instead, I agree. Instead of different boxes, now they could just do it in a completely new one and just do another set of 4, but then it would get really annoying to. I mean, I like this. I think this is cool. The 4 boxes. The 4 bosses have like their lore on the edges.
They do good with their games.
Yes,
As far as
they're
it's-
just
it's-
as far as game design and
Right,
stuff
right,
is
right.
great, but for some reason they're kind of like storage solutions and everything else is kind of odd. Not bad per se, but odd.
Yeah.
So 7's multiplayer again. We just because we've seen this and there's other games kind of like this, where it's like this feels like it should be solo, with potential 8 for solo. But that's all I have. You have anything else?
No,
Cool.
That's good.
All right, well, that's our thoughts on Sorcerer Endbringer. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful other time of days.
Hey everyone, quick addendum to the review for Sorcerer Endbringer. Now normally I do this stuff as a separate review, but considering that Endbringer doesn't technically have a solo variant, it can just be played solo, I figured I would just tack this onto the end of the original review. Because after having played Endbringer multiplayer, and if you're watching this at the very end of the review, we kept talking about how this was most likely better as a solo game. And I'm like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. Let me play this solo and see if we are correct in that Endbringer is better solo than multiplayer. And I gotta say, it 100% is. Like, there is just so much less fiddliness, minutia, just kind of excess of the burden of kind of another player, that it feels like the abilities and the flow of the game just fits way better solo. So the solo variant, again, really doesn't change much, except that you have 30 less health, because you just have your thing of 30. And, pretty much you do an action, the Nemesis or the Endbringer does an action, and you just go back and forth. And that's just way cleaner than you doing an action, you doing the Nemesis, then your ally does an action, and you're not really integrated, you're not really cooperatively playing together. It's just kind of like you're on the same team, but you're not really doing anything to help one another. You don't have that here. There's less monoliths to destroy. Like, there's only 3 in a solo player game, and I actually included some of the veteran stuff. So I played with the monoliths for the Endbringer and for the Plaguebringer. And something I did that was really fun was I had my girlfriend pick out my domain, or my character, my lineage, and my domain based off the art that she liked, and I had her pick which Endbringer I fought and which archetype I had. So in my solo game I just did, I had Tegu, the Necromancer of the Forsaken Church, taking on Erish Kigal, which is basically some god that was abandoned in another netherworld, and she's coming back to open up gates. So kind of like a demigod, an old one with the cultists, because the cultists were trying to open up these gates. And the Plaguebringer that just basically has a bunch of rats, pestilence and rats that weaken your minions, and when they die, the rats burst out of them. And so something that was kind of similar to the multiplayer game that I felt in the solo game was it never feels tense. Like, not in the same way that Skytear can feel or that Aeon's End can feel, where it's like, okay, if we go, then we'll, like, it doesn't have that same kind of feel, even though the games are really close. Like, and Erish Kagol and the Plaguebringer are both high complexity. Now, that doesn't mean high difficulty, even though that's how I initially took it. It just means there's a little bit more going on with them than like some of the other Endbringers and some of the other archetypes. Now, to be fair, in this, with the 2 high complexities, I did not add a scenario because I was like, look, I'm already playing with extra monoliths. I don't want to just completely get swamped. But even playing against them and doing it solo, it still came down to 9. Yeah, I had 9 health by the end of the game. So it was still very close. And I guess that's a good thing. Maybe since it doesn't feel tense, I never felt like I was just getting my ass beat, but I also never really felt like I was beating ass. So it was like, I guess balance is a really good word for it. So the solo variant is just way, way quicker. Like, you get to just pick your character, pick your lineage, pick your domain, shuffle it together. You deal with tokens. You only manage the dice. You don't watch someone else manage dice. You don't watch them spend their omen tokens. You get to look at the battlefield and you manage your own minions on your side. It's just cleaner overall. So I really, really think that Endbringer is going to be way better solo. Not that it doesn't play bad with... not that it plays bad with multiplayer. Like, it can be done. It just doesn't feel like it was meant for that, in my opinion. So, like, if you love Sorcerer and you and a buddy, like, because Sorcerer, come on, is a 2-player game, but you and a buddy love the 1v1 aspect of it, then I would say just get the extra packs and stuff and stick with Sorcerer and play 1v1. But if you like the game, but you're kind of like, well, like, it's kind of annoying to do 1v1, especially with the battle system and these stupid ass dice, then yeah, check out Endbringer. It's really cool. Like, they did a really good job of finding a sweet spot and still making it difficult, because again, I think I just got really lucky with some of the Plaguebringer stuff. Like, I think it could have easily gotten out of hand. The gates for Erish Kagol could have been way worse. I had a really good synergistic deck with Tegu and the Necromancer and the Forsaken Church, so I had a lot of ways of summoning minions and buffing them and keeping them out on the battlefield because they can come back from the dead to kind of counteract the plague. It worked out really well. So I think I got a little bit lucky, but I also played really well. That's just how good I am. So yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I am going to bump Sorcerer Endbringer up to an 8. It was a 7 with the multiplayer aspect, and we said that it could potentially be 8 as a solo game, and I do agree. I think it's just a way cleaner system. Like, honestly, I kind of prefer it over the 1v1. And the only reason I say that is because the dice system and the omen system are just so much cleaner. Like we talked about in the multiplayer, the minions on the Endbringer side just do their flat damage, and you assign it out as you see fit. And you don't have to deal with, they don't roll. You only have to roll for your side, which again is just you. And you spend your omens, and you're making that decision instead of being like, oh, spend that omen, reroll that crit. It's only when you're rolling and you're like rolling. It's like, ooh, I got a blank, or I got one on each. I really need to do 4 damage. You're making that decision, which is way more interesting when it's your side, and you can spend omens to redo tactics when they're being drawn. So. It's just more versatile and intriguing as a solo game. So yeah, I think it does warrant a bump up to an 8. as a solo experience. So yeah, that's just added on to the end. I hope you enjoyed the discussion for multiplayer and this discussion for solo. Let me know what you think of the expansion overall in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.